Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 3 premiere of OnePunch-Man. Nice season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we're kind of slowly rolling our way, like kind of almost acts as this kind of interesting, obviously it's prologue to what the story is going to be this season, but like, it's this interesting like mix between an epilogue of last season and prologue to this season, considering it's like literally like feels like maybe a couple hours later it's picking up after the fact. So one of the earlier scenes was the higher ups at the Hero Association trying to decide, like, in the aftermath of everything in the season 2 finale where quote unquote King defeated the giant centipede thing, even though it was Saitama, but everyone's like, oh, luckily we had King to do it. So what do we do? How are we going to approach this whole like taking down the Monster Association situation? Because it's like, well, they know where the Monster Association is, that they're in City Z. They just don't know the specifics. I'm like, they definitely have to be underground. Because like, once again, the fact that Saitama's there and he's never run into him, but I mean, he probably stays very specifically in his section of Z, and then he leaves just to go to the other places to go to like shopping and stuff like that. So he probably never fully explores Z, but I'm like, for him to not notice anything, it's got to be underground. It's kind of interesting to think about. I was about to say, like, considering, like, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but considering Garo's like out at the end of the episode walking out and about, and especially if it's in City Z, he's got to run into Saitama again. I just thought about that. I was like, it'd be funny if he went to like past Saitama's place and it was the others that were there, but they wouldn't, because they're all going to be inside of Saitama's place, so there'd be no interaction there. But I guess I didn't even think about that until just now when I started recording. I was like, oh, he might run into Saitama considering he's walking around City Z and Saitama's doing the same. We'll get to that in a second. So, but circling back to the officials, Sitch is still dealing with his issue of like how the others view like the heroes, like, oh, these are our heroes. It's like they viewing this like a business, like this is a worldwide threat, like, because he's bringing up the whole Garo of it all, how Bong didn't defeat Garo, in fact, but Garo's severely injured, so he's kind of off the playing board for now. But then the whole conversation came up about like, well, we get all the heroes gathered. What about Blast? Blast is literally the number one hero. We need him. And it seems like a lot, unlike the other heroes, Blast seems to have a lot of like freedom to just do whatever he wants. It's like, yeah, he does it voluntarily. So like, he doesn't like being constricted. So it's interesting. You'd almost think like, if any hero were going to get the Blast treatment, you'd assume it'd be like Saitama if he ever got to that point. Like, Saitama seems very fast and loose with the whole like structure of the Hero Association, and I'm curious if that's kind of Blast's perspective too. But it's like he volunteers to help here and there, but even Sitch is like, well, if things get really, really dire, he'll show up. It's like, well, didn't show up with the whole Boros situation in season 1. And heroes have been attacked and taken down. Like, even some S-class ones have kind of, you know, gotten taken down, and Blast still hasn't bothered. But I guess it's like nothing's truly reached the Oni level. Not Oni level, like the God level. Nothing's hit the God level yet, so Blast hasn't had a reason. But also, like, no one knows. Like, the registry is done in such a way that like no one actually knows who. I'm sure they know to some degree, but like on the registry, like no one's going to know who Blast really is, because he wants the anonymity. He doesn't want like the attention and stuff like that. So like I said, it's interesting how there's that parallel between him and Saitama in that regard. But yeah, they're putting together a squad. First up, it's like, I think it's Blackluster, Tatsumaki, and it's Pig God, right? Is that Homejude's name? And the guy who's like running the operation is kind of breaking things down, which Tatsumaki's like, well, why don't we go in there, wreck shop? The monsters have kind of been hiding. They must be like running away from me. She's like, well, since we know it's in City Z, why don't we just blow up City Z? It's like, well, we have someone to rescue, so we can't really just do that. So they want to put together a squad, because he's also saying like, don't underestimate these monsters because they've been pretty tough so far, and even kind of bring up Dive Knight went off on his own because he's never really been defeated, but we haven't been in contact with him. So I don't know if that's indicative of anything, because later on there's that robot that, because I completely forgot about this, like that random robot that showed up at the beginning of season 2 that quote unquote King dealt with, but it was actually ultimately Genos who dealt with him. But I'm like, oh yeah, we never actually found out where that thing came from, did we? But it's like this other robot shows up later on, joining forces with the Monster Association, but it belongs to some other organization. So I'm like, I wonder if that's related to Dive Knight, because he's also the one that, or is it Dive or Drive? I think it's Drive Knight. Either way, he's also the same one that warned Genos in season 1 about like, oh, be wary of Metal Knight. So I'm like, now it's like, well, that was him trying to point you in a different direction, because like for him to kind of go off on his own at this point in time kind of makes you go like, that seems a little suspicious. Maybe there's some correlation. And like I said, at the same time this monster shows up, not unless that's him like playing deep cover. Maybe that's why he's gonna disappear, because he's like trying to infiltrate the Monster Association. It could go either way in that situation, so I'm curious to see where things go on that front. We also had Atomic Samurai and his disciples show up, and you know, they were out hunting monsters, so they were kind of out of the loop. In fact, a lot of people are out of the loop. Kind of just shows you like how it's like outside of like those kind of almost like pager type things, like there's no other means of contacting the heroes. That's why I guess this so like, yeah, like Bong ends up bringing it up later on, like during the fight last season, he ended up losing his Saitama inadvertently ended up destroying King's because he broke it. Genos's broke during a fight, so it's like there's literally no other means of contacting the heroes outside of that. It's like, did you think those things were indestructible? Like, shouldn't you have like a calling sign that makes it easier to get in contact with the heroes? I always go back to like, I don't think they know that Saitama and Genos, by extension, live in City Z. Because only like, I think only the S-class heroes have those anyway. But it's like, you have a hero like literally on the ground floor of City Z that you're, but like, I'm like, I still always say, how do they not know that? Do they just never bother checking his address? Did he leave it blank? You know? Well, to be fair, he probably said he lives in City Z, but not specifically the Ghost Town part. But still, he's close enough that if he did register in City Z, I've reiterated this point time and time again. It's just something I think is fascinating. But getting back to the point I was trying to make was, everyone's out of the loop. So Atomic Samurai's finding out about this stuff. It's like, yeah, they were going around hunting like monsters here and there, and then a Mai shows up, and it's like, oh, you're such a cocky prick, saying like, oh, like, I'm only an A because it gives me a better position to overlook everything, but if I wanted to, I can jump to S class pretty easily. In fact, he tells Atomic Samurai, he's like, oh, you might want to leave your students to like go fight the small fry for small fry, because they're going to most likely get killed, or they're going to get used as hostages as well, and that's just going to hamper us. But he's like, yeah, I'm stronger than you, Atomic Samurai. And it's like, he's kind of got the same energy as Soryu from last season, but I'm sure like Amai can probably back it up. But it's just like, I can't wait for that bastard to get put in his place, because he thinks he's hot shit. But hey, maybe he is hotter and more powerful than we kind of give him credit for, most likely. But he just his demeanor just kind of like, oh, your personality sucks. So who knows if they got into it because we cut away from that situation. But I can definitely see them potentially knocking heads, bumping heads. I mean, it's such a makeshift team. I mean, you know, he's the 1A there, but it's going to be the rest of the S's. I mean, I don't know if they ever typically operate fully as a group, because who knows who's going to show up. Because they got 2 days to act before the that boy, you know, potentially gets killed. Which that's something I really want to quickly bring up too. I meant to bring it up earlier in the recording. I'm curious if that's going to be the pacing of the entire season, that basically the entire season is going to be lead up to like this conclusion with the Monster Association, or is that going to be partway this season? Because I'm someone that's a really big fan of like, oh yeah, like a story taking place in a very interesting time restraint. Like the example I always use is like 24. Like the entirety of 24 season is every hour of the show is literally an hour of the 24, like, you know. So I always wonder about, like, I always think that's so fascinating, because like I can't think of his name, but there was like a webtoon I read many years ago that basically each season of the webtoon took place over the course of a day. So like there's like 40 some chapters in the first season, 40 some in the second. Those seasons happen months apart, but each one takes place in a single day. So I'm going on this whole long diatribe just to say, like, I'm curious to see if like most of the season, if not all of it, is told over the course of those 2 days, because I think stuff like that's like, just from a narrative standpoint, I think like a time restraint like that is always so interesting, narratively speaking. But that's just like a weird thing that I like. I like knowing like the time frame of storylines and stuff like that. Like, oh, this happened over the course of like 5 minutes. Oh, this happened, obviously I can't ever say that without thinking about Namek. That will always be the go-to when I use 5 minutes as a time frame of reference. Either way, like I said, my massive diatribe aside, which the dad of that executive who had his son taken was kind of upset that no heroes have actually made any progress. So he puts together his own team. It's like, right, they got like the best equipment that puts them on the same level as professional heroes, and then they immediately get washed. It's specifically because that armored knight showed up and wrecked shop, but it's like they probably had plenty of other monsters to deal with him because Child Emperor was talking to Metal Knight about like, oh, you should get involved. But he's like, the reason I don't get involved is like, well, because if we do nothing, that kid's going to die. If we do something, you guys will go there and you'll die. And most likely the kid will die too. It's kind of like a choose your battle. Because for him, it's like, this situation, it's kind of like, this is the tipping point. Like, if this really goes super sideways, it could like put the whole world in danger, not only just because of the monster association. Every other threat could see this as like humanity's at its weakest point. Now it's the time to pounce. So that's why he's kind of thinking like the domino effects of it. So he wants heroes to not rush in there and die. He wants them to kind of be in reserve, and it's like we got to plot this out and choose our battles wisely just for like the greater longevity of humanity in this world and for the fight. And even Child Emperor's like, well, why are you so like hesitant? Like, well, like, sure, your like armor got busted up, but like, why are you that scared? He's like, because it was like I went up against Orochi. It's like the thing took me down in one punch. He's like, I blocked, but my arm of that robot was completely destroyed, and even the self-destruct part of it was. I don't know if they specifically reached in and destroyed it, or whether it's just like it did so much damage that even the self-destruct feature immediately suffered ramifications from like Orochi's punch. So it's like this thing is. The Monster Association as a whole isn't the big concern. Orochi is. So, and he's basically having his perspective on justice, where it's kind of like you can't rely on or trust anyone, and if you really want to go about justice, you kind of only have yourself to rely on. So that seems to just be why he operates the way he does. Which I'm curious. Like I said, it kind of plays into that whole like, can he really be trusted? Like, is the other knight? Like I said, Drive or Dive Knight, like, are they the one that you should be the most concerned about? Like I said, is he playing, the Hero Association? Is he playing the Monster Association? If that armored knight that showed up to help and join them is him, in fact. But like I said, that's just speculation on my part. Because those guys that were hired by that executive thought they were going to do something. Even if he hadn't interfered, there's plenty of monsters that would have taken you down. And rather than kill them, they're being used. The kind of succubus-esque character who like uses her whip to like charm them. She basically like takes them under her fold because it's like those suits are tailor made for them to each unique individual. So no monster could take advantage of it. So why not take advantage of the humans themselves? So extra muscle on their squad. Because I think, was it Gyoro says, like, they have, like, maybe 30 or less, like, high-level monsters. And obviously, Goketsu and what's-his-face, the giant centipede, were, like, two of the top ones. They're not, like, maybe not, like, the top ones, but they were definitely heavy hitters, and they've both been defeated, which is kind of a concern. Because it's like, yeah, Gyoro kind of keeps getting blindsided by that. It's like, unbeknownst to you, it's the same person who did it, so. Speaking of good old Saitama, we have Fubuki making her way to his place, because considering, like, her group got thrashed last season by her sister, it's like, okay, she's kind of trying to replenish her forces, and like that's the only strong person that's in the same class as her she knows she can rely on. So she goes to Saitama, and it's Bomb that opens the door. It's like, oh, Saitama, you have a friend here. And it's like, oh, here's Genos, here's King, here's Saitama, here's Bong. And it's like, wait, what's going on here? Who are these? And it's like, she recognizes Silver Fang and King, obviously, but also seeing the state that Genos is in. It's like, what, you guys have just been messing around? And I love that partway through the conversation, it's like, Tom was like, what do you want? And then he kind of lays down. She's like, don't lay down. This is a serious conversation. But it's like, no, we just got back after dealing with some stuff. And Bong is like, yeah, like, I threw my back out after everything. So he was like, Saitama was nice enough to let me stay here. And same thing for like Bomb. It's like, yeah, after using that technique they used to try and kill the centipede thing, that ultimate technique that took its toll on them, they both are not in fighting condition. And King is trying to come up with excuses like, oh yeah, there's something else I got to deal with. Genos is it clearly has to be repaired. Even Fubuki's like, yeah, that's perfectly clear. You kind of went through the ringer. But she's like, right, you guys are out of the loop. And she's like, we need to strategize. But no one's like really listening to her, so sadly. But it's like she's trying to rally the forces because she's like, the only people here in this room that are like viable for fights is her and Saitama. You know, because you guys have kind of all been out of the loop. And I think even King references, Garu as the hero hunter. It's like, oh, apparently he was there, but you barely just missed him. I forgot what it was. Something in particular kind of annoyed Saitama. I don't know if it was that fact or not. So he's like, oh, I'm going to go out there and look for him. But then he was also like, yeah, I'll also do some shopping on the way. But then like Fubuki's just like, yeah, I was here and just everyone completely ignored me just to do their own thing. I came here to kind of strategize and rally us. And then like, cool, I'm still here with everyone that's not fighting except for King. But King's got his own mysterious reasons for not wanting to participate. We know, but Fubuki doesn't. And then like I brought up earlier in the recording, how Saitama's like walking around City Z, might run into Garo. But it's like, once again, will he remember Garo? He's run into him twice before, but it's like it's been so swift that he probably didn't retain his face. Garo also has no idea who Saitama is because he didn't remember the first time they duked it out. Well, it was very one-sided. 2, he thinks it was King that knocked him out the second time, so there would be no correlation or any connection for them to be like, oh, you're the tough guy that I want to challenge against. Also, like, Saitama would not recognize him as the hero hunter. Just like, oh, that's some random dude. I could definitely see that. Just them kind of being two strangers passing in the night, passing during broad daylight in this particular case. But you get the point I'm making so there will probably be no correlation or connection in their head. So it'd be kind of really interesting if they end up really having a in-depth talk or some thing, and Saitama never brings up the hero hunter stuff, or neither does Garo. I could definitely see this series doing something like that, but we'll see. Kind of flipping over to the monster side of things, Garo is, before he left, he was in a heavily weakened state. He needs water. He needs to eat something to replenish his blood, and because he's severely damaged. And it's like I said, it was he had little moments of rest, typically when he was knocked out, and maybe when he was relaxing with the kid with the hero guidebook. But other than that, it's been pretty gauntlet heavy fights back to back, especially after the beating Bong and Bomb put on him last season. I mean, in particular, Bong. But yeah. But obviously, Gyoro wants, because they are they need more structured leadership. He wants Garo to be the leader to kind of take charge in this upcoming war. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see. Seems like Garo already made it clear to himself, and he has no interest in the Monsters Association. So I guess he's just figuring stuff out because he's not supposed to leave. But Goro sent other monsters to tail him and follow him. So most likely, partway through it, either Goro is going to be completely unaware and tries to fight them, but he's in a weakened state and can't beat him. And then Saitama will show up and beat him, and shenanigans will ensue there. I'm just so curious, what that proper introduction is going to be if there will even be one. I'm just bracing myself to be it's not going to be a proper introduction. It'll probably be super late in the season, but I could easily be proven wrong. There's also those warriors who try to get Sonic to join the Monster Association by making him into a monster. And they're like, oh, we haven't seen Sonic recently. I wonder, did the cells not work on him? And it's like, nope. Here he is getting off the toilet for the umpteenth time. And he's like, oh, I feel this energy swelling in me. This must be the monster cells or whatever. He's like, it doesn't feel any different. But it's like, I never had any plans on joining the Monster Association. I just wanted more power so I could defeat Saitama. That's all there is. But he's like, oh, I'm feeling this power. And nothing else really changed, but I feel kind of lighter. And I initially thought the bit was going to end with him being like, oh, I feel this sudden surge. Oh, I have to go right back into the bathroom. It turns out he's lost 2 kilograms of weight. I translated that into pounds. It's a little less than 4.5 pounds he lost. It's like, Jesus, dude, you've been shitting your brains out, haven't you? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Like, I'm also curious to see if that bit ends up being anything that they explore or not. Because I brought it up last season too. Every time someone just ate that raw, they turn into a monster. Either it's going to turn out that Sonic has some deep immunity to it for whatever reason, but my immediate justification was like, that wasn't even a thought I had last season. My immediate thought was, it's got to be because he cooked it, right? He's the only person that's cooked it first, and it's like, that must have disrupted whatever process is happening inside those monster cells that induce monsterization in people. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Sonic ends up doing. Kind of, he's been sidelined this entire time, and now that he thinks he's stronger, is he going to try and gun for Saitama? It's interesting considering, like, well, Garo's out there, the hero hunter. Sonic isn't a hero hunter, but he is after one specific hero, and you have Saitama out there looking for the hero hunter. The Hero Association is kind of sitting on standby while they're waiting for other heroes to kind of show up. And like I said, Genos, Bong, and Bomb all have to recover. King's going to be making excuses not to show up, and others are making excuses not to be there, but a few have gathered, so it's going to be interesting to see how this season plays out. Obviously, I was only recently finished catching up with OnePunch-Man, so I've avoided watching the trailer. Even if I hadn't just caught up, I would have never bothered watching, because I want to go into the season knowing as little as possible. So I don't know what to expect. Like I said, even the pacing of the season, will like the Monster Association arc be the entire season? Will it be like half the season and the other half is a different arc? I'm curious to see what the structure of the and pacing of the season end up being, just like how this situation unfolds. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.